Do you remember those hip-hop groups that changed everything, but somehow vanished from the mainstream? Here's the thing. The golden age of hip-hop, that magical period from the mid-1980s to the early 1990s, was all about pushing boundaries and breaking new ground. But there's a strange twist. The groups that pushed the hardest, the ones who innovated the most, often ended up being the most underrated. We're talking about 5 incredible acts: the Cold Crush Brothers, Stetsasonic, Ultramagnetic MCs, Mantronix, and JVC Force. These pioneers took the biggest creative risks and paid the biggest price. Their radical ideas were simply too far ahead of their time for commercial success. So how did the very artists who built the foundation of hip-hop end up forgotten by the mainstream? Let's start with the golden age itself. This era followed the old school years and brought an explosion of diversity, quality, and innovation that shaped all hip-hop that came after. The music featured experimental sounds and sampling from old records. The lyrics covered all kinds of subjects. This new school aesthetic had harder beats and more complex lyrical delivery than what came before. Groups like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys released landmark albums that brought hip-hop into the mainstream. But when hip-hop started finding commercial success, it created a problem for the most boundary-pushing artists. The artists who innovated most aggressively often stepped outside what the mainstream was comfortable with. The 5 groups we're exploring were top innovators in their fields, but their commitment to pushing sonic and lyrical boundaries placed them outside the commercial framework that quickly formed around more accessible mainstream stars. Now, when we say these acts are underrated, we're not saying they lack skill or impact. Far from it. The mismatch is between their foundational cultural importance and their final commercial number. Their pioneering choices resulted in commercial constraints. By taking the highest creative risks, they bore the brunt of the market's initial rejection of radical change. They cleared the path and defined the soundscape for later, more commercially successful acts who built upon their blueprints. Let's talk about the Cold Crush Brothers first. These guys were true pioneers whose contributions date back to hip-hop's earliest years. Their legacy is rooted in their live performance skills and their crucial role in taking hip-hop culture beyond New York City. In the early 1980s, the Cold Crush Brothers were among the first acts to take hip-hop to the rest of the world. They toured Europe and Asia. Their presence in the 1982 hip-hop movie Wild Style amplified this global spread. After the film came out, they went on promotional tours, including a big trip to Japan in 1983. Hip-hop, especially breakdancing, took hold across Asia because of them, making the movement truly global. They built this cultural capital before the music industry had fully standardized success around formal record sales. They were instrumental in establishing the international stage that later Golden Age groups would perform on. But they built this infrastructure too early to fully profit from it themselves. The Cold Crush Brothers' success was initially driven by grassroots distribution. Their reputation was boosted, fueled by bootleg cassette tape recordings of their live performances. This street-level spread of their art solidified their pioneer status, but made their transition to the formal record economy complicated. Their most successful song, Fresh Wild Fly and Bold, from 1984, initially saw promising sales. However, this momentum was suddenly disrupted by a dispute between their record label Tough City Records and the distributor Profile Records. The structural instability of the emerging hip-hop record industry, combined with their reliance on non-commercial formats, meant that when they finally sought formal recorded success, they were vulnerable to external business failures. Although they continued releasing music, the sabotage of their most promising single established a ceiling for their commercial growth. Before we go further, if you're enjoying this deep dive into hip-hop history, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us which of these groups you think deserves the most recognition today. Did you know about the Cold Crush Brothers' global impact, or is this news to you? Let us know your thoughts. Next up is Stetsasonic. Their primary contribution to hip-hop history is structural. They push boundaries as the first hip-hop band, integrating live musicianship into a genre that was largely dependent on breakbeats and sampling. Stetsasonic paved the way for groups dedicated to live instrumentation. They came before acts like The Roots. Their lineup featured Daddy O, Delete, Fruckwine, Wise, DBC, and drummer Bobby Simmons, alongside DJ Prince Paul, who was recruited in 1984 and later became famous for his production work. However, their dedication to being a live band limited their commercial reach. Stetsasonics' commitment to genuine live performance was so strong that they refused track dates. They insisted that promoters treat them as a full band. This artistic inflexibility restricted their touring and performance opportunities compared to peers who relied purely on portable DJ track. Beyond their structure, Stetsasonics' track, Talking All That Jazz, from 1988 remains one of the most significant contributions to the genre. It fiercely defended the practice of digital sampling as an innovative art form. The song directly challenged critics who claimed that sampling wasn't art. It famously said, "A sample is a tactic, a portion of my method, a tool." This commitment positioned Stetsasonic as cultural theorists within the genre. By choosing to spend their lyrical energy fighting a public debate, the group positioned their art within a niche intellectual framework. They prioritized artistry over commerce. While this move appealed deeply to critics and sophisticated listeners, it potentially sacrificed the broader chart accessibility enjoyed by contemporaries who focus predominantly on self-assertion and straightforward storytelling. Then there's Mantronix, formed by DJ Curtis Mantronix and MCT. This New York City group pioneered the fusion of hip-hop and electro-funk. Curtis Mantronix's approach was overtly technical. He identified as a nerd who was really into technology and consistently used the latest available instruments. His commitment to sound design resulted in some of the most innovative electronic music of the era. Mantronix's signature sound was built upon rolling drum machines, especially the TR-808, which he used extensively for his distinctive bass frequencies. His early releases, notably the 1985 electro classic Fresh Is the Word, utilized a blend of sampled percussion and 8/8 programming. He specifically decreased the tempo of the drum patterns while simultaneously making the sound more intense. This vision of the producer as frontman, where the complex technology-driven sound itself was the main feature, was less conducive to mainstream hip-hop fame. Mantronix's sophisticated and futuristic production immediately set them apart from the conventional New York hip-hop sound of acts like Run DMC and LL Cool J. Critics noted that the group's debut, the album from 1985, was conceptually closer to club music than traditional hip-hop. As a result, the album struggled to appeal to the domestic hardcore hip-hop market. It found greater traction instead within electro, funk, dance, and club circuits. While struggling at home, the album received substantial praise from the British press. Magazines like NME and Melody Maker included it in their top 10 albums of 1986. The lack of mainstream U.S. acceptance confirmed their peripheral commercial standing. The true measure of Mantronix's genius lies in their technical influence. Mantronix's tracks have been sampled over 500 times, including De La Soul, J Dilla, Beck, and JPEG Mafia. Their sound served as a forerunner to distinct regional styles like Southern Bounce and Hi-Fi. They are underrated because their massive impact is hidden within the work of hundreds of subsequent artists. The Ultramagnetic MCs, featuring Kool Keith, Set G, Mo Love, and TR Love, were driven by deliberate intellectual confidence. Their name, Ultra, signified they were beyond and ahead of the very rappers then dominating the airwaves. Their debut album, Critical Beatdown from 1988, remains a classic of the golden age, acclaimed for its profound influence. The album was characterized by abstract rhymes delivered in strange patterns laid over complex sampling experiments. Kool Keith was notorious for refusing to conform to established rap structure. He often rhymed mid-bar or completely abandoned conventional rhyme schemes. The lyrical content could be frankly strange, linking different images in a stream of consciousness style. This aggressive lyrical style actively challenged listeners, while their futuristic approach attracted an expanding cult following. The refusal to obey commercial conventions actively resisted mass appeal. Their genius lay in creating art that required mental effort, a commercial liability, and a mass market genre. Critical Beatdown was produced primarily by Said G, often alongside engineer Paul C, utilizing the EMU SP1200 sampler as the central instrument. Despite the album's overwhelming critical acclaim, Critical Beatdown charted modestly on release in 1988. This gap between critical praise and weak contemporary sales demonstrates a key divide. The album was simply ahead of its time, both lyrically and sonically. The abstract style and complex sampling experiments eventually proved widely influential, providing a roadmap for future generations of underground hip-hop artists, as well as mainstream acts like Public Enemy and even gangster rap. The Ultramagnetic MCs absorbed the initial market resistance, allowing their concepts to flourish commercially when adopted by later artists. Finally, we have JVC Force, consisting of AJ Rock, B-Love, and DJ Kurt Kazal. They emerged from Islip, Long Island, New York, in the late 1980s. They played a crucial role in establishing Long Island's identity within hip-hop history. Their definitive track, the underground hit Strong Island from 1987, served as a powerful regional anthem. JVC Force established themselves as the first crew to truly represent Long Island to the fullest. This was emphasized by their innovative sampling of Chuck D's rallying cry of Strong Island from Public Enemy's Bring the Noise. Their debut album, Doing Damage, released in 1988 on B-Boy Records, showcased raw energy, infectious beats, and notable lyrical and production skills. While JVC Force exhibited undeniable talent, their commercial path was unstable and ultimately cut short. Their active period was brief, spanning approximately 1987 to 1993. The group demonstrated severe business instability, marked by rapid label transition. After their debut on B-Boy Records, they moved to Idler's Warlock Records for their second album, Force Field, from 1990, and later signed with Big Beat Atlantic Records. JVC Force broke up after releasing the single Big Tracks in 1992, critically leaving a planned third album unreleased. Despite their proven innovative production and lyrical abilities, the inability to maintain momentum through frequent changes in their commercial backing meant their potential was never fully realized. So what do all these groups have in common? Their underrated status is a necessary result of their positioning at the leading edge of hip-hop's evolution. They committed the fatal commercial error of being too original for their time. Three key factors consistently undermine the commercial success of these influential acts. First, technical and lyrical extremism. Acts like Ultramagnetic MCs and Mantronix chose technical complexity and challenging content over market readability. Second, structural and label instability. The Cold Crush brothers saw the sales of their most successful track destroyed by a label distributor dispute. JVC Force's career was ultimately ended by a rapid succession of label homes. Third, the live performance trap. Both Stetsasonic and the Cold Crush brothers based their legitimacy on non-recorded cultural methods. While this granted them untouchable cultural credibility, it failed to translate efficiently into standardized commercial album sales. The most crucial understanding is the concept of pioneering as predation. These innovators became creative test subjects whose refined techniques and revolutionary styles were harvested by subsequent, more commercially smart artists. They paid the creative and financial cost of market experimentation. They provided the DNA, Mantronix 808 techniques, the Ultramagnetic MCs, abstract rhyme, evolution, Stetsasonics, structural foundation for those who achieved massive, sustained success. Their names faded from the mainstream only because their influence became so fundamental that it dissolved into the success of the entire genre. The five groups detailed here are pioneers whose contributions were so far ahead of the commercial curve that the mainstream market was simply unprepared to receive them. Their underrated status is a historical marker indicating where the music surpassed the industry structure designed to sell it. Stetsasonic established the potential of live instrumentation, clearing the path for groups like the roots. Mantronix provided a sophisticated technical template sampled hundreds of times by subsequent generations. Ultramagnetic MCs define the parameters of abstract lyrical complexity that will become the standard for underground rap. The Cold Crush Brothers defined the live cultural export and legitimacy of the old school era. JVC Force established a key regional identity while demonstrating the fragility of the era's independent record structures. The true measure of their success lie in their continued foundational relevance to the genre's history. While they may be forgotten by casual listeners, their artistic and technical DNA remains essential to the evolution of hip-hop. So, there you have it. 5 groundbreaking groups that changed hip-hop forever, even if the mainstream forgot their names. If this video opened your eyes to these hidden legends, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. And tell us in the comments, which of these 5 groups do you think had the biggest impact on modern hip-hop? We love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep digging deeper into the roots of the culture.